Music has the power to literally rewire our brains. Studies show that certain compositions can increase focus by up to 65% and improve memory retention by nearly 40%. But finding the right sonic environment isn't as simple as hitting play on any classical playlist.
That's fascinating. I've noticed how certain music helps me concentrate, but I never knew there was actual science behind it.
Well, it's really interesting because composers like Ludovico Einaudi have actually engineered their music specifically for cognitive enhancement. His piece, Nuvole Bianche, uses precise tempo patterns that match our brain's natural focusing rhythms.
How exactly does that work with our brain patterns?
Think of it like this. Our brains operate at different frequencies throughout the day, and Einaudi's compositions maintain a steady 70 beats per minute, which research shows is optimal for focus and information processing.
That reminds me of those productivity playlists that are everywhere now. Are they based on the same principle?
Well, many try to copy this approach, but what's really interesting is how composers like Max Richter have taken it to the next level. His 8-hour composition, Sleep, was created using EEG data from sleep studies to match our natural brainwave patterns.
8 hours? That's quite the commitment to a single piece of music.
Right, but here's the fascinating part. Studies of people who listen to Sleep showed a 23% improvement in memory consolidation compared to control groups. It's like having a cognitive enhancement tool running in the background of your consciousness.
So what makes this different from traditional classical music?
Well, let's look at Brian Eno's groundbreaking work, Music for Airports. He pioneered what he called ignorable music pieces that work on multiple cognitive levels simultaneously. The composition uses mathematical patterns that create what neuroscientists call a stable auditory environment.
That's really interesting how intentional these compositions are. What about the long-term effects?
Recent studies from the Cognitive Neuroscience Society show that regular exposure to this type of structured ambient music can actually create new neural pathways. It's like your brain is building new highways for information processing.
How would someone start incorporating this kind of music into their daily routine?
The key is to match the music to your cognitive needs. Einaudi's work is perfect for active focus tasks, showing a 35% improvement in concentration spans. Eno's ambient pieces reduce stress markers by up to 45% during complex problem solving.
That's quite impressive, but does personal taste in music affect these benefits?
That's where it gets really interesting. While personal preference plays a role, these compositions are designed to work at a more fundamental neurological level. The structured patterns create what researchers call cognitive scaffolding, regardless of musical taste.
So what's the future of this kind of music looking like?
Well, we're seeing the emergence of AI-composed focus music. It adapts in real time to your brainwave patterns. Some composers are even collaborating with neuroscientists to create pieces that target specific cognitive functions.
That sounds like science fiction becoming reality.
Like, imagine a future where your smart speaker analyzes your stress levels and cognitive state, then generates the perfect soundscape to optimize your brain's performance. That's actually already in development at several research labs.
The implications for learning and productivity are enormous.
Exactly, and that's why this field of cognitive music design is expanding so rapidly. We're not just talking about background music anymore. We're looking at precision tools for mental enhancement that could revolutionize how we work and learn.
Sanskrit texts from thousands of years ago described reality as pure vibration, long before we had particle accelerators and wave equations.
That's fascinating. How did they arrive at these insights without modern technology?
Well, through deep meditation and observation, they developed the Spanda Sutras, which describe consciousness itself as a kind of cosmic vibration or pulse. What's remarkable is how closely this aligns with quantum field theory. Both suggest that at the most fundamental level, everything is essentially vibrating energy.
So these ancient scholars were basically doing consciousness research thousands of years before neuroscience existed?
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how systematic their approach was. The Pratyabhijña Sutras, for instance, outline specific methods for recognizing how individual consciousness connects to universal consciousness. They weren't just philosophizing, they were creating detailed maps of consciousness and perception.
That reminds me of how modern scientists map neural networks and brain states. What other practical insights did they discover?
Well, the Yantra Sutras are particularly fascinating. They describe developing what they called divine vision or inner sight. It's not just about physical seeing, but about cultivating a kind of intuitive perception that transcends ordinary sensory experience. Modern research into intuition and pattern recognition is just starting to catch up to some of these ideas.
That's making me think about the observer effect in quantum physics, how the act of observation affects what's being observed.
Oh my gosh, yes. And the Rudra Sutras take this even further, describing how consciousness itself can be a transformative force. They talk about this energy associated with Shiva that can catalyze dramatic shifts in awareness. It's like they understood the role of consciousness in shaping reality millennia before quantum mechanics.
Well, that's pretty mind-blowing. What about the feminine aspects of these teachings?
The Devi Sutras are crucial here. They present this sophisticated understanding of Shakti, or feminine creative energy, as the dynamic force behind all manifestation. They describe it as both transcendent and immanent, beyond everything yet within everything. Modern physics might describe this as the relationship between fields and forces.
So these aren't just abstract philosophical concepts, they're describing fundamental principles of reality.
Precisely. And here's what's really fascinating. They provide specific practices for working with these principles. The text suggests that by understanding the vibratory nature of consciousness, we can learn to work with it more effectively. Some neuroscientists are now studying similar concepts in terms of neural oscillations and coherence.
That's really bringing together the theoretical and practical aspects. How do you think these insights could inform modern research?
Well, take the Spanda Sutras description of consciousness as a vibration. This could offer new frameworks for understanding phenomena like quantum coherence and brain processes. The text suggests that consciousness operates at multiple levels simultaneously, from the quantum to the cosmic.
So it's like they were mapping the territory of consciousness from the inside out, while we're trying to map it from the outside in.
Exactly. And maybe that's why these teachings remain so relevant. As we develop more sophisticated scientific understanding of consciousness and reality, these ancient texts offer valuable perspectives on how to integrate that knowledge into direct experience. They provide a bridge between objective observation and subjective experience.
That's really bringing it all together, the ancient and modern, the scientific and spiritual.
And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that the deepest truths about reality are accessible through direct experience. Whether we're scientists or spiritual seekers, these texts suggest that understanding comes through developing our capacity for direct perception and recognition of these fundamental principles. In a way, they're offering us a complete science of consciousness that we're only now beginning to appreciate.
Meditation practices have shaped human consciousness for millennia, but recent studies show these techniques actually create measurable changes in brainwave patterns identical to those found in the Great Pyramid's acoustic chambers. Let me tell you why this is absolutely mind-blowing.
That's fascinating, especially since we're seeing more scientific validation of these ancient practices. What specifically drew researchers to make this connection?
Well, it starts with this meditation technique called Shiva Linga Dharana. When practitioners form this specific bowl shape with their hands at the navel, remarkably similar to vessels found at Mohenjo-Daro, dating back 4,000 years, they create a kind of acoustic resonance chamber.
So you're saying these ancient civilizations understood something about sound and consciousness that we're only now rediscovering?
Exactly right. When you combine this posture with the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Guruvaya, it generates specific frequencies. And here's where it gets wild. These frequencies match perfectly with the acoustic patterns researchers discovered in the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber.
That's incredible. But how does this actually affect our consciousness?
Think of it like a quantum antenna. Just as a solar sail harnesses invisible photon pressure to move through space, this technique helps us tap into quantum possibilities. Recent studies using EEG machines show these specific frequencies can alter brain activity patterns in profound ways.
So we're essentially talking about an ancient technology for consciousness expansion that's being validated by modern science.
You know, that's exactly what we're seeing. Studies from several major universities have shown these mantras can significantly impact everything from stress levels to cognitive function. The ancient practitioners understood this empirically, but now we're seeing the mechanical process behind it.
Well, that makes me wonder, how does someone actually begin practicing this effectively?
It starts with understanding that consciousness isn't passive, it's an active force. The physical posture creates what's called a yantra, or energy focus point. When combined with the mantra's specific vibrations, it creates a kind of quantum coherence in the nervous system.
That's quite a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern physics. How do you see this knowledge evolving as we move forward?
You know what's fascinating? Quantum physics is actually catching up to what these ancient practitioners knew intuitively. The observer effect, non-locality, quantum entanglement. These aren't just abstract concepts anymore, they're describing the same reality these meditation masters were exploring thousands of years ago.
Like we're finally developing the scientific vocabulary to explain what they already understood through direct experience?
Precisely, and here's what's really exciting. As our measurement tools become more sophisticated, we're finding more evidence that consciousness itself can influence physical reality. These ancient practices weren't just primitive attempts at understanding the world, they were refined technologies we're only now beginning to comprehend.
That really changes how we should think about ancient wisdom, doesn't it?
Well, it's like we're standing at this incredible intersection where science and spirituality are finally speaking the same language. And as we continue to study these practices, I believe we'll discover they hold solutions to some of our most pressing modern challenges, from mental health to consciousness evolution.
So what you're suggesting is that this ancient knowledge might be key to our future development?
Exactly. And just as the solar sail transforms invisible forces into tangible movement,